Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. I got to go to work tonight, but I figured I could at least get a couple videos out before I had to leave, and for some reason I cannot find the remote for my lights. What the ham biscuit? Cody, did you steal the remote for my lights? Hmm? Oh, there it is. I was wondering what you were probably wondering why everything was so dark. um, I figured we could knock out a couple more videos. I was almost finished with the Barbarian during the last skill do-jank, and I feel embarrassed because literally I was editing up the Whirlwind video and I realized that I hadn't talked about. Well, I mean, I talked about everything with Whirlwind, and I feel like I was pretty thorough, but one thing that I left out, which was absolutely silly, and I don't even know how I left it out, was that you can block and your defense works while in Whirlwind. A Whirlwind doesn't count as moving. It's basically like standing still according to the game. And then for some reason I just completely left that out. I'll have to put it on like a pinned comment at the top or something. It's a really long video to have to redo, I think. Um, the last two abilities I think on Barbarian we were needed to go over were Stun and Concentrate, I believe. Those were the last two. Wasn't really too much more to do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Stun and Concentrate. Those were the last two left. And then we're going to be moving on to another class. So the poll that you see currently up is essentially the poll for what class I'm going to be doing the videos on next. So if you want me to do videos on the Necromancer next, then choose a Necromancer. If you want me to do videos on the Druid, choose a Druid. I need to get that before I finish doing the last skill on the Barbarian so that I can, know which one to go to. I believe the Sorceress won last time as well, if I remember correctly. So I'll take that into account, obviously. So if some another class wins, I will... I think it was the Sorceress anyway. The Sorceress's skills are almost done, though, so if I do end up on the Sorceress, like, I've pretty much finished most of her abilities anyway. Making a concentrate video requires concentration. You know what it requires? Advanced knowledge of game mechanics, which I may or may not have. When it comes to the Barbarian, I'm not ashamed to admit the Barbarian, I think, is one of my worst classes. I don't exactly know why. I just never really kind of had the like Barbarian at the top of my list kind of a thing. And part of the issue is that I guess that I just never really played the Barbarian as much. Cody, stop it. I never really played the Barbarian as much as the other classes, and it wasn't really my like personal favorite. Let's see. There is Concentrate, and then we're gonna also pull up Stun. All right, Stun. What's up, Gus? Oh yeah, I forgot to say hi to everybody. My bad. What's up, Gary? What's up, Frank? Scott? Sean? Charles? Gus? Witcher? Bishop? Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Always appreciate the support. And let's see here. So I'm probably going to do Stun first, and I'm going to take a look at Stun, just kind of see if there's anything special that needs to be, like, pointed out. Apparently there's some kind of weird interaction between, or some kind of weird interaction between Stun and Warcry. I know Warcry has a synergy bonus, but basically what it's saying is that there's a maximum number of seconds that stun can stun for, right? So like if I just dump points into stun, eventually I will reach 10 seconds according to what this says. However, you can see here, even with level 31 skill, I'm still at only 5.4 seconds, which unfortunately doesn't really help in a lot. But what it's saying is that the interaction between stun and Warcry actually lets you reach the 10-second threshold and also much easier. According to this, if I put a mere 7 points into Warcry, oops, I accidentally did 8, my stun duration on stun should be a lot higher as I level it up. And I'm currently at 7 seconds. Okay, so to reach 10, which is the cap, I need to be level... what am I? 27? According to this, I'm gonna have to dump in 20 points. Let's check that again, just to be sure, though. In fact, you know what? Let's do it this way. Let's throw in the 20 points into Warcry first. And then let's dump in the points into stun. So as you can see, we're able to hit that 10 seconds a lot sooner with the hard points. And once we hit the 10 seconds, according to what it's saying here, once you hit the 10 seconds, like, there's no point in putting any further points into Warcry, which is... I'm not really entirely sure, like... what's going on here. Let me move myself over, because I do need to move myself over for the skill video so you can actually see the skills. Totally forgot about that. It's a little strange. Let's test this a little bit here. So let's just go ahead and throw in 20 points into stun. Let's go ahead and put 1 point into Warcry. Now we're at 5.5. 2. Now we're at 5.8. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at 7.6 seconds with 10. And... Cody, stop. Let's try 15. 8.8. 9.3. 9.6. 9.8. So it looks like it doesn't matter. Like, it looks like we have to put 10 points in no matter what. However, I'm assuming that plus the skills probably has a lot to do with this. So let's test this one more time with our plus the skill equipment on, just to kind of get like another baseline idea. So assuming, of course, that we have a large amount of plus the skill equipment, which, you know, like Torch and Annie, and then we've got, you know, like our maybe we got BK ring on or something, and like a +2 armor, whatever's going on here. We got like some plus to skills, right? Let's see how much that affects it as well before we go into this video, because I wanna be able to report this properly. All right, so with 1 point in Warcry, and we can go ahead and throw our points in here. And let's just bring this up to level 10. Let's bring this up to level 5. So now we're sitting at level 21 current skill with stun, without any hard points, basically, right? So we already have 5.7 second stun duration. Let's go ahead and bring this up to 10. Now we're sitting at 6.8 second stun duration with level 21. And let's keep that at level 10. And let's go ahead and bring this up a little bit further. So now we're at level 31 base. And we can check and see what's going on here. So let's bring this up to 15. And now we're at 9.4. So one more point, we're at 9.7. One more point, we're at 9.9. So we don't necessarily need to max out Warcry. It depends on what level the stun is. So the higher level the stun, the more is being added by Warcry to the point where you don't need to cap out Warcry at all. In fact, the level of, if you want that maximum stun duration, the level that you put into Warcry is highly dependent upon what level you have in stun. So the higher level your stun is, the less you've got to invest point-wise to get that maximum stun duration. I'm not even really sure you really need the maximum stun duration. Like, I mean, do you really? Like, I feel like this is kind of like a 10-second stun seems like a really freaking long time. I mean, if I'm running out here with my little stuns and I'm smacking monsters, I mean, they're stunned for 10 seconds. They're not doing a whole lot for 10 seconds. I can even switch it around, and I can hit multiple monsters, and I can stun everybody within range. But kind of the really weird thing that's bothered me a lot here is that, well, Warcry also has a stun, right? So, like, at the end of the day, why wouldn't I just do this? It seems wholly and utterly useless. Like, if my goal is to stun, if I'm trying to stun the monsters, and also literally the skill, the synergy for this that allows me to stun longer is literally the same one that also stuns all the monsters around me, like, what's the point of stun? I don't see the point of it at all. Like, it seems completely and utterly useless. I mean, at this point, I'd be better off utilizing something like Concentrate instead, and then just spamming Warcry every now and then and just smacking the crap out of something. I mean, granted, there's a certain aspect to stun that allows you to obviously attack at the same time as you're stunning a monster, so you get like a decent little bump in damage. But unfortunately, kind of like double swing, you notice that there's no enhanced damage on the skill. So stun has no enhanced damage, and it just has attack rating and stun length, and it doesn't even have stun length because the stun length is coming from Warcry. So like it's really strange. Like, if you just put points into stun with nothing else, like if I throw 20 points into stun, I now have 145% attack rating and a stun length of 5 seconds, which 5 seconds still seems like a extraordinary long period of time. Like, I don't really see why you would need more than 5 seconds anyway. So the Warcry 5% duration doesn't really seem all that useful. And the Concentrate 5% attack rating per level is also, again, kind of like maybe not that useful. But the bash damage per level is almost mandatory. So if you were going to go down this route and you wanted to have stun as an ability to use, you have to dump 20 points into bash to get the enhanced damage, which actually only adds up to 160%, which isn't even really a whole lot. I mean, at least with double swing, it's 200%. We lost 40% between the two skills here. It's also a single-handed attack, which means it doesn't use your dual wielding. So if you're dual wielding multiple weapons, it's only going to be using one weapon to actually attack with, and that's a lot of synergies for a skill that's I'm honestly gonna say mostly useless. Let's take a look really quickly at Warcry just for the fun of it. So with 1 point in Warcry, we're looking at a 2.4 second stun duration. And if we bring that up to level 14, well, level 21, basically. Now, this isn't necessarily impossible because a lot of barbarians do actually stack things like Warcry skillers. So it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility to run a level 23 Warcry, and you might not even need that many points. In fact, you really only have to, because most barbarians, of course, are going to run shout, they're going to run battle orders, they're going to run battle command. So they've already built down this side of the tree. They already have howl because that's the prerequisite. And then on top of that, you've got taunt, you've got battle cry. So these two are the only ones that you have to spend points into that you wouldn't otherwise normally. So to get Warcry, which is a very useful ability, and to have it at a stun duration of 5 seconds, which is about the same stun duration that stun offers you and when it's maxed out, you'd probably wouldn't even need more than 1 point. It depends on how much plus the skills you have. But since a lot of barbarians do tend to run Warcry skillers, it could be a thing. And at that point, you have a 5-second stun, which is an AoE, and you don't need a crappy 5-second stun, which is not an AoE. I think all in all, I've never been like completely unimpressed with a skill before. Maybe with the exception to like Inferno, but I think I'm really unimpressed with stun. Like, as far as abilities go, it seems like it's inferior to other options. Like even if I were to say like be going to, I don't know, let's say I was going to Trav. Like let's go to Trav real quick. And I wanted to do like some Trav runs or something like that. And maybe I have my main ability, doesn't really matter what it is, but I'm running in here and I've got Warcry and I've got stun, right? With stun, I got to run around, I got to hit every single monster, right? So I've got to literally come around here and hit all the monsters. With Warcry, I can do a little bit of headbanging here. I can stun the entire group. A couple of the elites will follow me out very easily, right? So like in this situation, I've forced the elites to separate themselves. I mean, granted, Warcry itself isn't the greatest damage unless you build it specifically. But as far as locking down monsters goes, Warcry is definitely going to be the superior option for locking down a group of monsters. Which leaves it in a really weird position of like, well, maybe if I have it, like I wouldn't build it, but if I like had to have it for some reason. So is stun a synergy for anything else? So if we look through the tree, stun is not a synergy for Berserk. Stun is not a synergy for Concentrate. Stun is not a synergy for Frenzy. Stun is not a synergy for Double Throw. It's not a synergy for Double Swing. It is a synergy for Bash, which is interesting. So I guess if you were going to be a stun barbarian, you would also be a bash barbarian. What's up, Flack? This is a live recording video. We're gonna be making some videos. I'm working on stun right now, trying to figure out how I can actually do this video and not like sound like an idiot, which is the par for the course. I mean, it seems like Bash, Stun, and Concentrate are all tied together because Concentrate has Bash as a synergy, Stun has Bash as a synergy, Bash has Stun and Concentrate as a synergy, and Stun has Concentrate as a synergy. So, like, all of them seem to be deliberately, like smooshed together, which is interesting. I mean, I guess from a certain point of view, if you were building, say, like a Concentrate Barbarian, you would already have a relatively high level Bash because you would probably max out Bash to get the 5% damage per level on Concentrate, which is going to give you a decent little bump in damage. As you can see, I'm at 330% damage on Concentrate. So if you were already a Concentrate Barbarian, you might use Stun in that situation. Like, you're out here, you're fighting things with your concentrate ability, and I'm gonna die. No, I don't have any points in vitality. You might use your stun ability to help save your life in this scenario. I mean, just go ahead and utilize it. But it's kind of weird, though, because, like, let's talk about this for just a second, right? So the concentrate barbarian is about enhancing your defense. Like, you can enhance your defense to massive proportions with a concentrate barbarian. You're not really so much worried about monsters hitting you. Like, when it comes to monsters, bonking you as a concentrate barbarian, you don't care. Like, you usually have so much defense as a concentrate barbarian that, like, let me just go ahead and pop some points in here and give myself some shouts, because, like, I guarantee you, if I went over there in that same scenario with those same monsters and let them wail on me as a concentrate barbarian, with the defense bonus that concentrate offers, combined with maybe like some other things like a nice shield, maybe utilizing a grief and like a storm shield or something like that, they wouldn't be touching me. Like, why would I even want to bother trying to stun them if I'm in a super tanky, ridiculous, like, mode that they can't even touch me in anyway? You know what I mean? Like, I just have 8,581 defense, right? But let me go ahead and walk out here, get surrounded. With concentrate up, I'm at 17,162. I don't need stun. I don't need stun. Like, it's at this point, like, it doesn't matter if I'm surrounded by 1,000 monsters. I've got enough defense that most of these guys can't even touch me. And this is not even building defense. If I was building defense, if I had something like Fortitude that had chilling armor proc on it, if I had a nice shield like I was talking about, with some extra defense there, 75% block chance, all that other stuff, what do I need the stun for? I mean, that's P8, by the way, that I just literally just walked through with concentrate. I mean, I haven't changed it. Like, he literally just stood there and just took the brunt of all the attacks and didn't need to stun anything. Alright, I think I'm ready to do the video. This is going to be a really stupid one. I'm probably not going to talk very nicely about this video, this ability. And, it's probably not going to be very long either, to be honest. So if you guys are unaware of how I do this, it's really simple. When I start the video, I'm going to play my intro. I'm going to start recording when I play the intro. And then I'm going to start recording the video just like I would normally, talk about the ability. And then when I'm finished, I'm going to do the outro. And that's not the end of the stream. I will be back, because then I just end the recording, and then we go on to the next skill, which is going to be Concentrate, which I will talk much nicer about. And, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get this started. Actually, I need some water real quick. My throat tends to get very dry while I'm doing these videos. Give me just a second to go grab some water. All right. Three, two, one, let's jam. Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be going over an ability that the Barbarian has in his combat skill tree, known as Stun. Stun is not a very good ability. I'm going to be absolutely frank with you guys. It's a pretty trash ability. And as I go over this video, I'm going to kind of explain to you why it's trash and literally why you probably shouldn't even use it. Unless, in a very rare situation, you just happen to have it as a character. So first off, let's go over what stun does. So what is it? It's a melee attack, right? It is a melee attack that stuns monsters. However, it also has 3 synergies, which is just silly. It has Bash, Concentrate, and Warcry as its synergy. Warcry is very far down the tree. And does require a little bit of an investment to get to. Now, most Barbarians will end up building Shout, Battle Orders, and Battle Command, so you will go down this part of the tree. However, you still have to sacrifice another 3 points to get down to Warcry. And once you're at Warcry, obviously you're going to have to spend another 19 points to level it up. And what you get from it isn't really even that good. To be honest with you, if you reset my skills here, you'll see that Stun, with its max at level 20, has a stun length duration of 4.5 seconds, which is pretty decent all on its own. 4.5 seconds is enough that you can probably just stand there and stun everything, and most monsters won't be able to touch you. The additional amount of time that adding in more points to Warcry gives you isn't really worth it. You go from a total of 5 seconds to a total of 10 seconds. So you gain an additional 5 seconds for 20 points in skills, and I don't really think that's worth it. And here's the other part that's really kind of sad when it comes to this ability. Stun only stuns 1 monster, okay? So if I go out into, just some particular area, it doesn't matter, let's just go throw some points in. And let's say I hop to, I don't know, Canyon of the Magi. And I go out here and I start stunning monsters, right? So I'm in the middle of a group of monsters and I'm trying to survive, right? So I'm stunning everything. And of course I forgot to put in vitality. So you're stunning all the monsters around you and trying to keep yourself alive by stunning them and, just in general staying alive. Staying alive, staying alive. The problem is you still got to hit every single monster 1 time to stun them. And it's not anywhere near as useful as you would think. And on top of that, to build the stun duration, you have to build this skill, which is Warcry. Now, Warcry is a far superior stun in just about every way, because it actually stuns all the monsters around you with 1 swift movement. It also has a duration which is equivalent, if not higher, than stun without building stun. And on top of that, since most Barbarians tend to go down this part of the tree anyway, it's a rather minimal investment to put at least 1 point into Warcry if you want to have a stun ability. Which means that with plus to skills, your Torch, your Annie, maybe your Warcry skillers, if you're going that particular direction on your Barbarian, you will probably end up with a really decent stun duration on Warcry in general. And this is great because, well, you can stun everything around you for free. Like, if you're ever in trouble for any particular reason, Warcry can just be your 1-point wonder, which leaves stun kind of out in the cold as a very weird ability which doesn't quite have any life to it. Yes, it does damage, and it will do more damage than Warcry will, but if I have to go around and stun every single monster in sequence to get them to not beat me up, then what good is that when I can just tap 1 button and do the same thing to everything nearby. And then after I tap that one button to stun everything nearby, then I use whatever other ability I want to use. Like maybe I'm a Whirlwind Barbarian, or maybe I'm a Concentrate, or a Berserk Barbarian. Whatever it may be, I don't necessarily have to, do things in that particular way. And for this reason, I think stun is probably like one of the worst abilities in the Barbarian tree. It could be useful, I think, in a PvP scenario where you're trying to stun another player on the list, but overall, it just doesn't have the oomph that it needs to, and the high amount of synergies that it has. So having Bash as a synergy, Concentrate as a synergy, and Warcry as a synergy, for a total number of points of 20, 40, 60, 80 to max out the skill. That is a lot of points to max out an ability. Like you're talking about like the majority of the points that you have as a character to max out an ability that's not even really something that you'd want to use as your main attack. And so back to what I was talking about earlier, which is incidental, right? So if I happen to have it, if I've built it for something else, right? So like if I've become a Bash Barbarian, which is the only skill, by the way, that uses it as a synergy, then I could potentially be using a very nice stun effect on monsters. Maybe I would use it on like an individual super unique or something like that, just to lock them in place. And so what it becomes is it becomes a utilitarian skill, right? It's not a skill that you build a character around, but it could potentially be useful in limited situations, assuming, of course, that you don't have access to Warcry, and Warcry is not high enough level to actually apply a good level of stun. I mean, as you can see, if I reset my character here, and let me just go ahead and throw in the points so I can get my basic plus the skills. And once I have my basic plus the skills, I'm looking at the very least, a level 10 Warcry, which is a 2.8 second stun length duration. So I can, at the very least, stun every monster around me for 2.8 seconds for a minimal 3-point investment. Whereas to get stun to the same level where it can put out a decent stun, like, per monster, because you got to think that if you're applying a stun to everything around you for 2.8 seconds, that's pretty decent, because all of the monsters will be stunned for that duration. However, if it's a single target ability like stun, you have to apply the stun to each target, which means that there's going to be a delay, a huge delay in between applying your stun to every target, and so the duration has to be much longer for the stun of a single target ability versus the stun of an AoE ability. And it's just, it doesn't seem like it's worth using at all. Also, we have to take into consideration the fact that, number one, it doesn't have any damage increase on it. So unless you build Bash, which is its synergy, you get no damage bonus on stun whatsoever, except for the initial 8% synergy bonus, which comes from Bash. On top of that, it also requires attack rating to stun a target. So if I miss, the target won't be stunned. Whereas with Warcry is just going to hit everything around me in a circle, and they're all going to be stunned at the same time, right? So, I mean, it just seems like, in general, stun is one of those abilities on the Barbarian that you are generally going to avoid. And in the rare cases that you might actually use it, it's going to be limited. And I think that's pretty much it for this ability. I really don't want to go on forever about an ability that's not really even that great. The only other thing that I think I can go over is the duration. So building the duration to its maximum of 10 seconds can be done in a variety of ways. If you have a lot of plus to skill equipment with stun, you don't need to put 20 points into Warcry to get the maximum stun duration. So if you were, for some reason, going to build this skill, you do not need to drop 20 points into Warcry to do it if you have enough plus the skills on stun itself. So once stun is at a certain level, because it's a plus percentage on the actual stun length, You can get to 10 seconds at varying points depending on what level stun is. And what this is going to be varied depending on like what your character is set up for. Think about it in terms of cold mastery and negative enemy cold resistance, okay? Because negative enemy cold resistance from equipment is the same as cold mastery. You want to get to 195% negative enemy cold resistance. But you don't need to max out cold mastery to do that. If you have other pieces of equipment that are applying negative cold resistance, you can scale back the level of cold mastery until you reach the appropriate value. And that's basically what you're doing here, is you're scaling back the level of Warcry to reach the appropriate stun length value on stun in response to how many plus the skills you have and what level stun is. I think that's pretty much everything for this ability, and as always, I do appreciate you guys watching my videos, even when it's over a stupid ability like this. And as always, keep watching. How did I do? Did I talk trash enough? Did I talk trash? Did I talk trash? Did I talk to trash? Did I talk trash? I need a fortitude for this to show off concentrate as best as humanly possible. I need to see if I can get myself a fortitude. I know I have one laying around somewhere. I'm sure that I do. I think he might be wearing a fortitude. I don't know. Chains of Honor. That is definitely a nope. He got a Merc. He does have a Merc. Merc is using fortitude. Good. We'll use that. I don't even care that it's F. You know, it's an interesting consideration is that you might be able to use ethereal items on a concentrate barbarian. It's an idea. Durability is lost when you're hit. It's not lost when somebody attempts to hit you. So theoretically, just a theory, but theoretically, if you had enough defense to the point of absurdity, like, the monsters probably wouldn't be able to even hit you at a certain point, right? Like, like you'd get to a certain point and the monsters would just be like, oh, well, I guess I'll just not do that. And you just don't, why am I even here? I mean, like, Fortitude has the Chilling Armor proc, and then you got, like, you know, the Concentrate bonus itself, and then you've got the Iron Skin, and then you can tag that along, of course, with the Shout, which is going to give you even more defense. And I mean, at a certain point, I would assume that you would just be like a literal god among men that can't be touched by men or elves. I don't even know. I really need a Storm Shield to show this off to its maximum ability. Let me see if I can find a Storm Shield real quick. Storm Shield. I'm trying to remember who had one just laying around. Not her. Definitely not her. Definitely not him. See if I have one on my Shields mule. Oh. This is not unique shields. This is shield bases. That was the shield base mule. Ha ha.
Good day.
Tiamat's Rebuke. Looks to me like he's full, which says to me that there's a second mule. That's what that says to me. There should be a unique shields 2. Unique armors, unique wands. There it is, unique shields 2. And Storm Shield is missing. Interesting. I mean, as far as defense goes, even though Storm Shield is amazing, there are definitely, like, shields that have slightly higher defense. I mean, I could throw in just about any kind of shield I wanted. Let's give him a Spirit Ward. Those things are amazing. I've always wanted to find a Spirit Ward. I've never found a Spirit Ward the entire time I've been playing Diablo. I've always wanted to build a character with it. Just put it on a character and just have fun with it. I don't know if you guys have ever actually seen Spirit Ward, but it's a very interesting shield. Not only does it have all resistances, faster block, and faster blocking, but it also has a 5% chance to cast level 8 Fade when you're struck, and 40 all resistances, and cold absorption. Like, as far as shields goes, it's a really tanky shield, like, defensively. Yeah, it doesn't have the high physical damage absorption that, or reduction, that Storm Shield does, but it does have 15, or sorry, what is level 8 Fade? It's 8% physical damage reduction from Fade, the 40 all resistances from the shield itself, combined with the fact that you can throw a socket in there and stack it even higher. And then the resistances that come from Fade, and then the block chance, and all that other crazy stuff. And the cold absorb is rather interesting, too. You're totally useless, Sage Necro. How about that? I ain't got no time for people who gonna be talking crap about items that I like. Any runes in here to shove in it? Just jewels. Alright, well, at least I have a shield, which is kind of what I was trying to do here. My defense is now 8,154. 24,462. $40,362. 47,945. Oh yeah, catching a Fade with a 5% chance with 40,000 defense is going to be a little difficult. The easiest way to do that would be just to go stand in the fire. Oh yeah, running around definitely makes it easier to beat me up because my defense goes away. Alright, I need to do a little bit of research on the ability first before we continue here. I do have Concentrate up. The +% defense is applied for the duration of the attack animation, so it is applied continuously when attacking continuously. Cannot be interrupted by blocking, casting, hit recovery, being knocked back, or stunned once the attack has been executed. While the synergy bonus displayed in Berserk is plus magic % damage per level, suggesting that 20 points would result in a 20% magic damage being added to the physical damage, 20% of the physical damage would actually be converted into magic damage, resulting in a 80% physical, 20% magic damage split. Conversion occurs after the +% damage and critical hit from Weapon Mastery, Critical Strike, or Deadly Strike, are applied before resistance is applied. Damage resistance won't affect converted magic damage, but magic resistance will. Well, not no block, but 20% block. You can still block while running. It's just capped at 20%, which obviously, admittedly, 20% block is not amazing, but as long as you have at least a 20% block, you're in a much better shape. Now, granted, it's capped at 20%. That doesn't mean it's actually 20%. So if you don't have a decent amount of block to begin with, it might be capped. It might be capped lower than that. From what I understand, it's you have a block cap of 75% normally, and then it is capped at 20% while running, but your actual block chance is also reduced as well. Now, if you're at 75%, it will be capped at 20, but if you're lower than 75%, it'll actually be capped lower than 20%. So it gets even worse. We got a lot of synergies here. I mean, Battle Orders is nice. Battle Orders is 10% damage per level. It's a pretty nice little synergy there. Bash is only 5% damage per level, so not quite as amazing. And I'm not really 100% sure that you'd want to, like, burn that entire part of the tree. Berserk is a nice synergy because it adds magic damage to the Berserk, which of course is going to increase the total damage output. But that also means you're going to be throwing 20 points into Berserk, which means your Berserk Barbarian is also... Your Concentrate Barbarian is also going to be a Berserk Barbarian at that point. Because if you're going to throw 20 points into Berserk to get the conversion for Concentrate, and you're also going to throw 20 points into Battle Orders to get the 10% damage per level for Concentrate. Now you have the magic damage per level from Battle Orders, and you have a maxed out Berserk, which means that your Concentrate Barbarian is always a Berserk Barbarian. It's a very interesting contradiction in effects here. I mean, you're basically, you've got one ability that adds huge amounts of defense to you, and then you have another ability that just simply takes all your defense away, and they're paired together for some reason, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But I guess if you were in the middle of combat, you could swip and swap back and forth between them at your leisure. I mean, you could run in, start bashing away, and hit your Berserk every now and then, and it's funny to watch the 47,945 defense just say 0. As soon as I tap Berserk, just immediately 0. It's a war belt. Not bad. Faster recovery, life, defense, 1 resistance, replenish life, 8. It's actually not a bad little belt. Alright, I think that's pretty much it for Concentrate. We could definitely go over it now. It's not really a whole lot more to talk about when it comes to Concentrate. It's definitely an interesting ability, and you can build an entire character around Concentrate, which is cool. But, you know, who knows? Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at the last Barbarian skill. I know, clap. You guys hate the Barbarian. You hate him. Don't lie, you hate him, and you're glad to see the skills and abilities for the Barbarian go. Don't even pretend. The last ability that we're going to be going over is Concentrate. Concentrate is a rather interesting ability. You can actually build an entire character around it, and it is a single target ability, and a lot of the Barbarian's abilities are. Even Whirlwind, for all its amazingness, is still literally just a single target ability. It's just a single target ability that attacks really fast. And, it's one of those abilities, though, that does pair up very well with other abilities, specifically Berserk, because of the synergy bonuses for Concentrate. If you look at Concentrate, Concentrate has a Battle Order synergy, and it also has a Berserk synergy, which means that if you put 20 points into Battle Orders and 20 points into Berserk, you'll have a level 20 Berserk, and one of the synergies for Berserk is also Battle Orders, which means that you are looking at a very nice Berserk along with a very nice Concentrate. Now, granted, there are some synergy differences. Berserk has a 10% magic damage per level from Howl, and Concentrate has a 5% damage per level from Bash. But to be honest with you, the 5% damage per level from Bash isn't even really that great. And yeah, you can definitely build it and bring it up higher, but as you can see, I'm currently at 415% damage increase with Concentrate, and if I throw 20 points into Bash, I'm at 510. So, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not like a huge, massive increase, and I'm not entirely 100% sure that it's worth 20 points. Maybe some of the extra points that you have left over, once you're finished leveling your character, when you have everything the way that you want it, then maybe throw your extra points into Bash, but it doesn't seem like specifically you should just like dump points there. The other thing with Concentrate is that, like Frenzy, that has a magic damage per level percentage increase, it does not actually increase your damage. So I know that it says plus percentage, but what it really means is convert. And this is part of the issue with the Berserk magic damage bonus, is it doesn't actually give you bonus damage. What it does is it converts a percentage of your physical damage into magic damage, just the same way that Berserk does. So if you build 20 points into Berserk, you do not gain any damage whatsoever to the Concentrate skill. It does not increase the damage output. It merely takes the physical damage and converts it into magic damage of a 20%. So it's 80 to 20% split if you max out Berserk with Concentrate. Now, you will get a small damage bump versus most monsters. However, physical damage can go down to negative 100%. So with something like Amplify Damage, or Decrepify, or various things that can reduce the resistance of a monster below 100%, or below 0, anything that will get the monster into the negatives will actually increase your damage higher than the magic damage that it's giving you, which means that in some situations, versus a monster maybe that's physically immune, or versus a monster that has very high physical resistance, the magic damage will be an increase. But actually, when you are utilizing things like Amplify Damage and Decrepify to increase your damage output physically, it will actually be a decrease in your overall damage output, because those monsters are now in the negatives for physical damage, and 20% of your damage is no longer physical, which means you'll be losing damage in those situations. Concentrate does have some pretty amazing effects, though, and I feel like we do need to talk about what Concentrate does better than pretty much everything else on the tree. Nothing on this tree, including Berserk, can do the same things that Concentrate does, and as we talk about it, you'll understand why Concentrate can actually be the main skill for a Barbarian. The first thing that Concentrate does, that is the most important thing that Concentrate does, and why it gains its name, Concentrate, is that it has the ability to prevent any monster from interrupting your attack. It doesn't matter what the monster does, whether they're stunning or knocking you back, or whether they have any kind of like chilling effects or freezing effects. When you were using the Concentrate ability, the monsters cannot interrupt you. And this also goes for PvP as well. It is an uninterruptible ability, and uninterruptible abilities basically during the process of actually swinging your weapon, nothing can stop you from completing that attack. And this is great for melee characters because you don't want to be interrupted. The Amazon, which was a travesty until they finally fixed her evades, she had an ability called Fend. And Fend, you could use it to attack multiple monsters, but she would constantly get interrupted while she was doing it. And the more she got interrupted, the less damage she did, the less lifesteal she got. Eventually, she would just die. And so having an ability that you can guarantee that is 100% uninterruptible is absolutely amazing, because you don't have to ever worry about, not connecting that attack. Now, granted, you still have to have attack rating and you still have to actually hit the target, but you don't have to worry about being interrupted in the process of trying to make the attack hit the target. Another thing that Concentrate does that is actually pretty amazing is it increases your defense while it is in use. As you can see right now, I have 15,737 defense, which is pretty insane. And if I hold down the button, you'll notice that I now have 31,229. Now, whenever you are in the attack, your defense is increased. And as long as you are attacking, your defense is increased permanently during that time period. And 31,000 defense is a lot of defense, but that's not even as high as it goes. If you combine it with things like Shouts, the Chilling Armor proc from Fortitude, a decent shield, a good amount of block chance and things like that, you can literally make a Barbarian that is nigh unkillable in terms of physical damage attacks. As you can see right now, I'm at 47,945 defense with a 9% chance that a Hellcat will hit me. And I could probably bring that down even more. If I were to utilize other pieces of equipment, maybe beef up specifically my war cries more than they are, which my war cries are only level 30. You could definitely get Shout to a much higher level than level 30. I could also maybe pop a few more points into Iron Skin just to really stack on the defense to a higher level. And I probably could get it to the maximum mischance of 95%, which is a guaranteed. Remember, all monsters have a guaranteed 5% chance to hit you. There's no way you can go any lower than 5%, and I'm already at 8% right now, at 55,691 defense, which is already just absolutely insane. And this is in no way the most defensive, tankiest Barbarian that you could build. You could stack on other items that would give you more resistances. You could use absorbing items like Ravenfrost and things like that. You could stack on physical damage reduction in the form of things like Storm Shield or String of Ears, Verdungo, those types of things. And by the time you're done, your Concentrate Barbarian would be the tankiest, most unkillable monster that probably ever existed in Diablo, with a defense level so high that Bale probably couldn't even scratch your armor. And then on top of that, you could stack on other things like 75% block chance. You could grab your resistances up higher, maybe throw on a Guardian Angel or something like that. Maybe a F upgraded Guardian Angel for even more defense, and then increased capping resistances and things like that. And granted, your attack damage might not be so great, but Grief tends to fix that for most abilities anyway. You can't really see how much damage I'm doing because I'm using a Grief, and Grief doesn't actually show up on the screen. Let me put on a weapon that would give you more of an idea of how much damage I'm actually doing. I have a Perfect F Zotted Flesh Ripper, which is going to be less damage than a Grief. It will be. But at least it'll give you a better idea of the kind of damage output that I'm doing, which is 5,340. And then, of course, I have the crit chance and the deadly strike and things like that, which means that it's even higher than that. So I could be dishing out anywhere between like 10 to 20k damage, depending on what kind of weapon I'm using, my modifiers, whether I have things like High Lords on and whatnot. And of course, it's a pretty fast attack too. So, like, if you're in the Uber zone, maybe you're killing Uber Mephisto, or Uber Bale or Pandemonium Diablo, as you're attacking, you're also applying your crushing blow, your open wounds, your deadly strike. You're getting off multiple things going off at the same time. And, this isn't Whirlwind. You can actually proc effects. So if you have any effects to proc on your abilities, like maybe if you were utilizing something that had static field, like Crescent Moon, or maybe you were utilizing Voice of Reason, or any other number of things, you could definitely get some nice proc effects as well along with this setup. Maybe Atmoscarab for amplify damage. And as you're building this massive concentrate barbarian and trying to get the best out of this ability, you just kind of lean into what concentrate is, which is it's literally just damage. It's defensive, right? The entire thing is defensive. And then on top of that, when you do come across those physically immune monsters, you don't necessarily have to have amplify damage or decrepify, because you also, in building concentrate and getting it to its maximum value, you are also going to have a maxed out, well close to maxed out berserk, which can also kill monsters relatively easy. So, say if you're in Arcane Sanctuary and you're an item find barbarian or something like that, and you're in here having fun and you come across those occasional ghosts, you're going to be able to walk right through the ghosts with berserk. Sir. Die. See if I can get a couple of these ghosts over here. Come here, ghosties. Now, of course, when you're berserking, you have no defense, but you can always swap back and forth so you don't just die immediately. And as you can see, I'm killing them slowly. It takes a little while. This is P8, of course, so do keep that in mind as you pay attention to how much damage I'm outputting. But I can't lifesteal and I can't mana steal from these guys. But that was a nice little healthy pack in P8. And as you can see, even without fully maxed out Berserk, just from the synergies that are applied by building Concentrate, I still could handle the ghosts with pretty much no problem. And it's an interesting ability. It definitely works well with Berserk, and I think Berserk Barbarians would probably be better off using Concentrate for the most part until they actually needed Berserk. And that's the cool thing about Berserk, is that while Berserk is, a nice ability to have, you can also obviously have another ability which makes you a lot tankier, a lot stronger in most situations. Like say for instance you're going up against the Travancore Council in Act 3, you're obviously going to want to use Berserk because there's a couple monsters in there that are physical immune. They love to spawn Stone Skin. Definitely causes some issues with this particular character. So when you come in here and you're fighting, you can totally use the Berserk to help kill those monsters. But Concentrate is definitely going to be a lot safer as you're fighting the Council. As you can see, I can pretty much just stand here and just, not even worry about the Council even being around me or doing anything. And this is far from, an optimal build in terms of, damage output. And when I come across that particular monster that's Stone Skin, I can swap it up and I can use Berserk on that particular monster and take them out. In P1, P3, P4, this would be a lot easier in general. And I don't really have this character set up properly, at all. He's using a lot of IK pieces. He does have a Fortitude on, which is nice. His shield is not a Storm Shield. He's utilizing Spirit Ward, which is the elite ward shield. And, it's just a very safe ability, as you can see, P8 Trav, I'm having absolutely no trouble against P8 Trav on a Barbarian that's not even set up properly. He's really not even set up properly for Trav. If you take a look at his equipment, he's got an IK crown, he's got IK gloves, IK boots, he's wearing an IK belt, he has the Spirit Ward shield, Maras, and he does have a Grief, which is really just where most of his damage is coming from. He's wearing a Bull Kathos and a Ravenfrost, but this isn't even like an optimal setup, and he has no charms. He's got no, no little damage additional charms, no Warcry skillers, no plus max damage charms, nothing that's going to help him out there. He's using no Mercenary, which Mercenaries come in extremely handy, especially if you're utilizing things like Might or Holy Freeze or, whatever particular aura that you want. And just in general, it's just a very nice ability. Its main downside, what is the main downside of a Concentrate, which I feel like we do need to talk about? It's a single target attack. And that's kind of like the main problem with all of the Barbarian skills. They're single target attacks. Most of them are just single target attacks. Bash is a single target attack that also has knockback, which makes it terrible. Stun is a single target attack, which has like nothing going for it whatsoever. Concentrate is a single target attack, which is honestly like 1,000 times better than both stun and bash in just about every way. Berserk, also a single target attack. Leap attack, a single target attack. The only abilities in here that don't attack monsters one at a time is Double Swing, and it does 2, and Frenzy, which does 2. And Whirlwind, for all of its bluster, literally is still a single target attack. Like, a lot of people don't realize that about Whirlwind when they think about it, because the fantasy of it is that it's this AoE ability that attacks all these monsters at the same time. But the truth is it's really, at its core, it's just a single target ability which stabs really fast. I mean, it's just literally just attacking very, very quickly. But for the most part, it's literally just hitting one monster at a time as you whirlwind around. And the slower your weapon, the more you see it. Like, you literally will watch it, like, just go, okay, bonk, 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 bonk. And that's nothing that Concentrate and Berserk can't do anyway. You run around, and if you have fast enough attack speed, you're running around and you're going bonk, 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 bonk. And literally, you're getting the same effect that Whirlwind is doing, as long as you're attacking quickly enough and, hitting as many targets as you possibly can. But the silly thing is you don't want to hit as many targets as you possibly can. You usually want to finish off the target that you're on. And in many ways, the way that Whirlwind works is it spreads the damage out too much to too many targets, whereas you could take that same amount of time and attack one target like 30 times instead of 30 targets one time each, which is, kind of silly. Overall, I am impressed with Concentrate. It's definitely one of those abilities that I might want to work into one of my characters. I have a double sting Barbarian who had to build 20 points in Bash for double swing, which is the only way I was able to get the 200% damage bonus on double swing. And since Bash is also a synergy for Concentrate, and Battle Orders is a synergy for Concentrate, it could be an interesting kind of a skill to work into that build, just so that I have a kind of like a safety ability, like if I get in the middle of a bunch of monsters and I don't want to die, and I'd like to have a massive defense bump, maybe Concentrate could be that, safety net. I think that's pretty much it for this ability. It's definitely a fun one. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we are concentrating so much. And as always, keep watching. All right. Barbarian is finished. And who is winning the poll? The Necromancer is winning the poll. Interesting. You guys want me to do Necromancer skills next? Is that what we're secretly saying? Is that we want to do Necromancer skills? Necromancer Whirlwind is uninterruptible, yeah. You can also die during it, though, which is interesting. Peace out? Who we peacing out, Sean? Where we going? Where we going? Alright, I'm looking at those votes, and Necromancer does seem to be winning. You guys want to change your votes or anything? You guys want to swippity swap it around or something? Because once I get started on this next class, I'm probably not going to go to another class until I'm finished. That's how I like to do things. Hmm. Tequila. I'm pulling up the Necromancer list to see what I've already done. It's been quite some time since I've done the Necromancer, so I need to see what videos I've already finished for him. If you guys are unaware, I do have playlists for all the classes. I'm going over all their skills. The Necromancer's playlist is right here, if you guys want to take a look at it. And those are the skills that I've already finished for the Necromancer. So if you guys want to like go through any of those, if you're interested in any of those specific abilities, I've already done Raised Skeleton, Corpse Explosion, Iron Golem, Clay Golem, Fire Golem, Amp Damage, Blood Golem, Life Tap, Curse, Attract, Decrepify. Looks like I've kind of avoided the Bone Tree for some reason. Not exactly sure why I decided to avoid the Bone Tree, but... Ba-ba-ba-bam, bow. Ba-ba-ba-bam, bow. Ba-na-na-na-na-na. Tequila. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. Wah, 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 wah. The dreaded bone spirits. I mean, I haven't done Poison Dagger. I haven't done Poison Explosion, and I haven't done Poison Nova. Those could be fun to do. Specifically, when you're talking about those skills, I mean, they are definitely some interesting ones. Let me go ahead and throw this in here. We'll do Poison Dagger first. In fact, you know what? I was actually just thinking about this. I have a Poison Dagger Necro that I set up. I actually have one. It's a build that I did. I'm not sure if you guys know about him or not, but a little while ago I did a theory craft on a melee Necromancer. And the general idea behind him was that he would, you know, essentially be a melee Necromancer. In every way, shape, and form, but, you know, he also would utilize the poison skills to help himself out. And there he is, Poison Bomb himself. Looks like I stole some of his equipment. I stole his helmet, don't know why. And he's also missing his boots. Don't know why. Interesting. He seems to have everything else, though. I'm pretty sure he was using... I'm pretty sure he was using a G-face. And looks like all his equipment is missing from his mercenary, too. I mean, yeah, it was viable. I tested it. It was completely viable. Let me recopy his file over because I probably have his old file that I can copy over to this. That way I won't have to go through the process of trying to re-guess what the hell was going on with his equipment, which I, probably would have. Poison bomb, there he is. All right, so I recopied him over. I'm probably going to have to set him up again. If a build is not viable, yeah, usually I just delete the character I don't respect. All right, we got to find him in the list. He's an older build, so he's probably going to be down toward the bottom. If you guys have never seen that video, by the way, let me pull it up for you real quick so you guys can have some fun with it. It was a theory craft that I did. His name is Poison Bomb. It was only about an hour long. There you go. That's the Poison Bomb theory craft. If you guys want to check it out, it was actually rather fun to play him. The main problem that I had with him, and this was a sad one because I rather enjoyed the character. The main problem that I had with him was durability. He, he's he attacks so fast and he does so well that his main issue was just simply a problem of weapon durability. He could not keep his weapon repaired to save his life, and there was really nothing I could do about it. I mean, I could have two plagues sitting around, and I could utilize both of them, I suppose. Um, had a bunch of different options for this guy. Yeah, I don't know why he has a bone shade for the bone armor. I think that's what I was using it for. It's Trinkles. He's got the Gore Riders, Myrmidon Greaves. Wow, that seems a bit excessive. Tubal Cathos. The G-Face with the 15% IAS. I think I ended up using the Andy's Visage anyway. And then I'm pretty sure I ended up using these gloves over the... I can't remember. I think there were some attack speed issues is what it was. Though I can't remember right off the top of my head. I don't know why he has poison and bone skillers. That doesn't mesh. That wasn't the correct option. Or was it just to increase his dagger? I think it was just to increase the dagger. I'm trying to remember what the hell I did with this guy. It's been so long. I want to say it was probably lower resistance. And then I'm pretty sure I did max block, which was difficult, or at least I did some kind of high blocking. I can't remember exactly how much I ended up doing. I needed the attack rating anyway to hit the targets, which was part of the issue. And then, of course, everything else is dumped into Vitality.
Good day.
So basically what this build is, I'm not sure if you guys have ever even seen that theory crafts, but for those of you who have, you might know what I'm talking about. And those of you that haven't, you got no clue what the hell's going on. So the goal of this build is to focus on the Poison Dagger ability. The meat and potatoes of the build is Poison Dagger. And then in the process, you're also utilizing things like Crushing Blow, Open Wounds, Deadly Strike, which I have 86% Deadly Strike for some reason. I'm pretty sure I'd rather be wearing the G-Face than the Andes. Just simply because I don't really think it's going to help me out as much. We've got level 15 poison over there, and this is level 15 poison over here. So there are two... Actually, what was it? No, this one's on striking, and this one's when struck. So they're two different things entirely. Let me bring this other plague with me so that I actually have something. I have cannot be frozen from the Trang's belt, so I'm good there. My resistances are a little poor. I just want to test this build out a little bit before I go forward. Pretty sure we're still in P8, right? Yeah, we're still in P8. So as you can see, I don't have any trouble killing anything. Even in P8, it goes pretty fast. Never really had much of an issue with this particular character as far as like his damage output went. His main issue wasn't his damage output. His main issue was the durability of the weapon. It broke really fast. 30 durability is not a lot. And when you're out there stabbing, stabbing everything, like it goes pretty quick. The bone armor comes in handy because you can just spam that whenever you need to. But the real beauty of this particular build comes into the Poison Nova spam. So you're not just single target with this build. That's the whole crux of it. You're spamming Poison Novas, and the Poison Novas are fully synergized. These are fully synergized level 15 Poison Novas that do a pretty significant amount of AoE damage on top of your physical damage that you're outputting. The monsters are dying slowly from the Poison Novas that you put out with this particular build. And then, of course, you also get the lower res proc on the actual dagger, which is nice. That way you can have lower res without having to cast it yourself. But it's better if it's self-casted. As you can see here, these are P8 champions. Let me get this champion Hellcat right here. I mean, the speed at which I can kill monsters on this build is not shabby. I wish it was faster. The other interesting thing, though, is that you can apply lots of Crushing Blow, lots of Open Wounds, and all that beautiful stuff along with it. I don't have any Mana Steel on this character, but... And I don't even have a merc. Did I not set up a merc for this guy? I feel like I must have accounted for a merc, but I guess not. Maybe I never gave him a merc in the theory craft. I don't know. I mean, a merc would go a long way with this particular build too. With the right setup, right pieces of equipment, you could definitely augment this build tremendously with the right mercenary. But I think we're pretty much set up to do our poison dagger video. So we'll have some fun with poison dagger. It's definitely not the preferred ability that most people like, but it works. Have they announced anything for the season 2 of Diablo? They have not yet. So it's funny. I usually keep my ear to the ground when it comes to that kind of stuff, and nothing has been announced or said yet. I mean, if I were to go to the Diablo news, there's like a news area of the Diablo page, and you can go to Diablo 2 Resurrected, and you can take a look and see what news articles they've published recently. I mean, we've got the 22 Nights of Terror is the last article that they published, and I would assume something like this would probably be published in the news articles, or at least eventually, like maybe a day later after they announce it or something. I don't know, but it would be up there for sure. It really depends on if they're ready or not. They've pretty much made it very clear that they're not going to start ladder if they're not ready. So it's not just going to be a timer countdown to a total thing. It's going to be a very clear and a very, succinct, like, hey, we're ready. This is going to be the day. We finally got the patch done, and we're going to release the patch so everybody can see it before ladder starts. And it's probably going to be the same way. Like, when the patch hits, whatever this new patch is, I would assume it'd be like 2.6. Patch 2.6 is going to be before ladder hits, so we won't really have to worry about it too much. All right, let's get started into this video with the Necromancer, and let's do the poison dagger video. Why not? 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. So now that we've finished off with the Barbarian, we're moving on to the Necromancer. Now I have already done quite a few Necromancer videos, and if you haven't checked those out, I do already have up the Raised Skeleton, Corpse Explosion, Iron Golem, Clay Golem, Fire Golem, Amplify Damage, Blood Golem, Lifetime Curse, Attract, and Decrepify are currently already up on the channel. So if you want to check out any of those, feel free. Today we're going to be starting with the Poison and Bone tree, and namely we're going to be starting with the Poison section. So we're going to start with Poison Dagger. Now Poison Dagger is an interesting ability because the Necromancer is otherwise not a melee character. None of the abilities that the Necromancer has, for the most part, work with melee attacks. Poison Nova is a spell, Poison Explosion is a spell, Bone Spear, Bone Spirit are both spells, Teeth is a spell. They have lots of spell curses, and even their summoning abilities don't involve any kind of melee attacks. So this is actually the one and only melee ability that the Necromancer has. And on top of that, it does require you to use a dagger to actually execute the ability. Now, up until recently, there haven't been a lot of really good daggers to use on a Poison Dagger Necromancer. One of the best, probably the best, is a Zotted Eth Flesh Ripper, which is probably was probably the best dagger for Poison Dagger Necromancer pre 2.4.3 or 2.4, I think, or something like that. And they came out with Plague. Now, Plague is a very interesting dagger in terms of a Poison Dagger Necromancer, because not only does it offer the level 12 lower resistance when struck, which is very useful, it also offers a level 15 Poison Nova on striking in combination, which is a synergy for Poison Dagger. So when you're looking at Poison Dagger, you notice that you have to build Poison Explosion and you have to build Poison Nova. When you're using Poison Explosion, you have to build Poison Dagger and you have to build Poison Nova. And when you're building Poison Nova, you have to build Poison Dagger and Poison Explosion. They are all intrinsically tied together, and no matter which one of these builds you choose, whether it be a Poison Nova Necromancer, a Poison Explosion Necromancer, which doesn't exist, Poison Dagger Necromancer, you have to build all three, which makes these all a 20, 40, 60-point investment, and you're always going to at least get 1 point in lower resistance, if not more, to get that negative res. So it's a 60-plus point investment, and I can't really pinpoint exactly how much that is because everybody kind of has varying degrees of what they go into with low resistance. And depending on whether you're using a Plague Dagger, you might not even bother because you got the lower resist proc from that, if you're a melee Necromancer, that is, because it is when struck. So if you're going to get in there and you're going to get, struck on a regular basis, then it probably will be going off a lot. Now, Poison Dagger does have some rather interesting interactions with other skills that make it rather unique in the Diablo world. I did some pretty significant testing on this, and the answer to the question is that it does stack with Venom. However, Venom, which is an ability that specifically adds poison damage to attacks, usually is the dominant one. And you guys know what I'm talking about when I say dominant. If you have like two dogs in a household and one's trying to be dominant over the other, one of them humps him, right? Well, normally Venom is the dominant skill. However, in the situation of Poison Dagger, Venom is actually the not dominant skill. Poison Dagger is the dominant skill in this scenario. And so what happens is that when you apply Venom to a Necromancer who is utilizing Poison Dagger forces Venom to apply to its rules. And you might be asking, what the hell does that even mean? How does Poison Dagger force Venom to apply to its rules? Well, in the same way that Venom forces other skills to apply to its rules, which is the 0.4 second duration, Poison Dagger forces Venom to apply its entire damage over the correct duration in addition to Poison Dagger. And it adds a huge amount of damage as a result. It's actually a set amount of damage because it's a multiplication of Venom. And we can go to an assassin real quick, and I could show you this just so that you understand what I'm talking about. We're also going to have to break out a calculator for this, so don't be surprised, because it does get kind of complicated. All right, so here's Venom right here on the Assassin. And if I throw some points into Venom, you'll see that at level 15, which is the only level Venom, as far as I understand, that you can get on a Necromancer anyway, comes from the Treachery Armor or maybe even a Grief Sword, but it's level 15. So it does about 305 damage to 325 damage over 0.4 seconds, which doesn't really seem like a lot, but it's 0.4 seconds. And what happens is Venom is forced to follow the rules of a real skill over the duration of basically what Poison Dagger is. And so you have to multiply the damage out to find out how much damage it would do over the duration of Poison Dagger instead of over the duration of its own skill level. And this means that you're going to have to multiply it a couple ways. And let me bring up my calculator here real quick. Alright, so here's the calculator, and I'm going to do some of these calculations on the screen for you. So right off the bat, it has a 0.4 second duration. Alright, so we need to find out what the 0.1 second is so that we can multiply this correctly. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to take 305, and we have to add it to our damage, which is 325, which gives us a total of 630. Then we need to divide that by 2 to find the average, which is an average of 315. We then need to divide 315 by 4, which is going to give us our 0.1 second duration, which is 78.75. Then we need to multiply that by 10, which is going to get us our full duration of 1 second. So over 1 second, how much damage does Venom do? And it's 787.5. Then what we need to do is we need to go find out how long Poison Dagger actually lasts for. So what is the duration of Poison Dagger? And we're going to go back to the Necromancer, pull him up real quick. And the Poison Dagger duration is 16.2 seconds. No, sorry, 23.2 seconds. Okay, 23.2 seconds on this boy with level 54. And I think if we go to our other boy, which is Poison Bomb, he has a lower duration because his level isn't quite as high. Let's use his instead. So his is 16.4 seconds. So we're going to multiply this times 16.4. And that's going to give us a total damage of 12,915 poison damage, which is going to be added to our total output. And I think you can actually see this in the character panel. I'm not 100% certain, but we can always go check it out. I can go stand in the fire in River of Flame, and we can wait for the. Actually, no, Fade is on striking. No, Venom is on striking. All right, hold on. So we just need to go bonk something then. So we should go from 27,000 as soon as Fade procs, or Venom procs. And as you can see, we went from 27,000 to 28,000. And this is the total damage over the entire duration. So it doesn't really, like, add up the way that you think it does because it's poison damage. And Venom is weird. It's just weird. I believe if you search for Poison Dagger on the net, I've actually done this before, and you can find the exact calculations that are a little bit jankety. Let me take the calculator off the screen, by the way. And Dagger. Sorry, I should have had this up to begin with. Alright, so when Venom has been cast, its bitrate is also added, and so is its length. Lengths from items are ignored. And the total damage output increase is... So bit rates from poison damage items are added. Their lengths are also added. Then the total length is divided by the number of items, and the total bit rate is applied for that length, rounded down to the nearest frame. So it's an interesting formula, but basically what happens in a nutshell is that the damage from Venom is forced to apply to the rules of the damage of Poison Dagger and is added directly to the Poison Dagger's total damage output. And it's actually a pretty nice little bump. Honestly, just very nice. If you're going to run Poison Dagger, you should probably proc your Venom to just, even if you just have Treachery sitting in your stash or cube or something like that, and you just go outside of town and just proc it. If you're going to be a Poison Dagger Necro, I would recommend procking your Venom, before you go do whatever it is you're doing, because it's going to add a pretty huge portion of damage to your Dagger's output. Now, when it comes to this particular ability, it does have a really large amount of attack rating bonus, 750% attack rating. And this is, of course, because, well, if you can't hit a target, you're not going to poison it. And it's not like the Necromancer has a lot of abilities which are going to increase his overall attack ratings. He doesn't have masteries or blessed aim or or penetrate or any of those other abilities. So when you look at Poison Dagger with that massive 750% attack rating increase, it's really there just to compensate for the fact that the Necromancer really has no other way to increase his attack rating. And if you do go with a max block Necromancer, which does require a pretty significant amount of dexterity, it'll increase that attack rating massively. Because if you take a look, I can go to my regular attack here, and you notice I only have 1,360 attack rating total. That's my total attack rating with dexterity. And when I'm using my poison dagger, because of that massive 750% bump, the 1,100 and, like what was it again? I can't even remember now. The 1,360 attack rating very quickly balloons out to 11,560 because of the massive attack rating bump on this ability. And of course, it's also taking into account other attack ratings that I might have, not just my dexterity, but if I'm running things like Raven Frost, or if I have, and I don't even have a Raven Frost on, by the way. I've got Raven Frost right here. Throw that on there, and now I'm at 14,193, which is kind of insane for a Necromancer. Now, as a general rule, Poison Dagger tends to be one of the poorer skills in this tree. It's definitely, like, if I were to rank all 3 Necromancer poison skills, Poison Nova is definitely number 1, by far. Poison Dagger is number 2, and Poison Explosion is by far number 3. It's actually the worst of the lot, and we're going to be going over Poison Explosion next, so, and we'll have some fun with that. One thing that I will recommend is that if you want to build a Poison Dagger Necromancer, that you take a look at my video, my Poison Bomb video, because I do a theory craft on a Poison Dagger Necromancer. That is the goal of the video, is I'm just trying to see if a Poison Dagger Necromancer can really be an actual thing. And this is him for the most part. He doesn't have a mercenary right now, but this is Players 8. I'll make sure that it's on Players 8 before I say that it's Players 8. This is Players 8, and on Players 8, he can effectively kill some targets pretty fast, utilizing lower resistance, which is obviously going to be a necessity for him. You can see his damage output is actually pretty decent on P8. And he basically just runs around stabbing everything. This particular build is also utilizing, though, the effect of the Poison Nova coming from the dagger itself, so that as I'm attacking, I'm casting these Poison Novas constantly with every single strike, which of course is making use of the synergies and things that come from that. And, as a Poison Dagger Necromancer, you can always cast Poison Nova yourself when you're in these situations with a large number of monsters. So, if you wanted to, you could always cast Poison Nova alongside of it. And that's one of the things that we talked about in the beginning, is that they're inseparable. Like, you don't have one without the other. Love and marriage, go together like a poison and bone. Necro, he's got all his stupid skills, and he can't have one without the other. Poison Necro. He's got some stupid skills, and that's okay. Yes, we don't like this one. It sucks. It needs some better stuff. Yes, it freaking does. Anyway, I think that's pretty much everything when it comes to Poison Dagger. The only other thing that I would probably recommend with Poison Dagger is that you use one that's indestructible. As fun as this build was involving the Plague Dagger, one of the main things that I had that was an issue with this build was it was just the weapon was always broken. Like, no matter what I did, no matter where I went, no matter how daintily I used my abilities, the weapon was always broken. And so I feel like with a Poison Dagger Necro, you would just be better off using something like a Zotted Eth Flesh Ripper, just so that you wouldn't have to worry constantly about it being broken all of the time. As always, thanks for watching, and tune in next time, because we're going to be going over the really terrible skill, Poison Explosion. All right, there's Poison Dagger out of the way. It's not a bad little video. let's go on to Poison Explosion. Explosion. What do we do when you make a lot of stuff? You take it to the shop and you sell it for some fluff. The jingle gets stuck in your head. Play it in fast in 2 times speed. It's hilarious when you play it in 2 times speed. Here, let me pull up one of my videos real quick just for fun. All right, I want you guys to listen. I know you guys can't see it, but that's okay. I'm gonna put it playback speed to 2 times, and I want you to listen to the jingle in 2 times speed. Are you ready? I don't know if you're ready for this. You might not be ready. All right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. It's cute in 2 times speed, isn't it? It's cute. You might be asking how I even know this, and the answer to that question is basically that I literally, when I review my videos, I already know what's in the video, but I need to find specific bits, and I don't want to sit there and listen to the entire video at normal speed, so I do it at 2 times speed, and then I'll turn it back to 1 time speed when I find what I'm looking for in the video, and I think it's funny. The singing must be edited out. No, it's terrible. Not staying in. Singing always stays in. What are you talking about? Cody likes my singing, doesn't he? Kubas. You want to sing song? You ready to sing song? You want to sing a sing? You want to sing a song? You ready? Let's sing together. You ready? Say, ow. Say, ow. Say, ow. Say, ow. You can be my drum. You ready? You gonna be my drum. We go like 1, 2, 3, 4. The devil's after me. 4, 5, 6. He's always throwing sticks. 7, 8, 9. He misses every time. It's a kubus. It's a kubus. A boobus. Yeah, that's a good boy. That's a good kubus. I need you to get down, though, Kubas. Part Mastiff, part Labrador, part Pit. I'm pretty sure he's got web toes, which is the Labrador, and he's definitely part Mastiff. And I'm pretty sure there's Pit in there as well. Yeah. Kubus Abubus, the monster dog. All right, let's do this other stupid ability, which I don't like. Poison Explosion. Explosion. Bum 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 bum. He is a sweetheart. He's also a rotten little shit. He's both at the same time. He gets overly excited, and when he gets overly excited, he loses his mind. Just his whole mind is gone. When he has control of his faculties, he's okay. But as soon as he gets overexcited, then he turns into a monster, literally. All right, let's get this Poison Explosion out of the way because I want to move on to Poison Nova. Poison Explosion's not going to be a long video. In fact, it's probably just going to be me talking about why it sucks and maybe what they could do to fix it. Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at the next in the poison tree, which is Poison Explosion. Poison Explosion is a rather sad ability. I really can't talk good about this ability. It's nowhere near as good as Poison Nova is. and it is nowhere near as good as Poison Dagger is. In fact, Poison Dagger honestly is better than Poison Explosion, and there's a reason for this. Number one, Poison Explosion is at its core not an ability that you can spam or use with any kind of efficiency. It is the same as Corpse Explosion in every single way, except instead of dishing out physical and fire damage like Corpse Explosion does, it dishes out poison damage. And it does it in a very, very tiny radius. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. Let me go ahead and show you guys what I mean. And this is also a tip for you necromancers out there. If you guys are unaware of this, there are free corpses that always exist outside of Heragroth. I'm going to utilize some of those free corpses right now. So when you use Poison Explosion, what it does is it causes the body to emit a cloud. It's a very small cloud. It has a radius of about 2 yards. Not very big at all, and it doesn't even last very long. As you can see, it was already gone before the monsters even were around. And let me kind of show you within a group here. Let me go ahead and kill at least one monster. Alright, and with poison, a little resistance up, this is the ability. As you can see, it infects a couple monsters, and it does a pretty decent amount of damage to those monsters that are nearby where the explosion happens. But for the most part, it's very poor in terms of how it affects the targets, who it hits. Most of the times when you use it, it's not even going to really hit every single monster nearby. On top of that, the short duration of it means that, literally when it's gone in, a half a second... I know it's not a half a second, but, let's count it. So, let's see. Oh, there's another dead body around here. So, 1,000, 1,000, 2.5 seconds. So, it stays up for about 2.5 seconds, and in that time, it infects any monster that's nearby. It has a really small radius, which means that the body has to be directly beside the monster that you're trying to poison. And this is also part of the issue, is that if this were I don't know, any other ability that wasn't linked to corpses, if it wasn't linked specifically to a corpse, it might be okay because you could then cast the ability next to the monster, right? So if you're fighting a particular monster, you would just cast the ability next to the monster. But as it is, you can't utilize the ability without a corpse nearby. And then to further complicate this, probably I think as complicated as it can possibly be, is that Corpse Explosion is 1,000 times better to use than Poison Explosion in the majority of situations. Number one, because Corpse Explosion has a radius that continues to increase as it levels. So for instance, if I were to dump 20 points into Corpse Explosion, I could potentially hit everything on the screen with one corpse. Whereas with Poison Explosion, the best I can hope for is to hit a couple monsters which are next to the monster that the corpse is at. For instance, I just killed this demon imp, and of course he didn't leave me a corpse. Let's kill this enslaved right here. Let's see if this body is close enough to infect these monsters on the other side. So I managed to get one, but not the other. So literally this corpse that was standing directly next to the monsters that I'm fighting and want to kill wasn't close enough to poison both monsters. Now, I'm kind of done bashing this skill because it's a horrible skill. It is. What can they do to fix it? Now, I'm not really 100% sure. Being tied to corpses, I think, is probably one of its biggest downsides, mainly because it has such stiff competition from skills like Corpse Explosion. And no matter how good Poison Explosion is, I don't know if it's ever really going to compete with Corpse Explosion. But let's look at it from that lens, okay? Let's look at it from the lens of how can we make this ability into something that could actually compete with corpse explosion? Well, first off, the radius would need to increase with level. So obviously you wouldn't want the radius to just be massive from the start, but it doesn't make any sense to me that an ability like this would not have an increasing radius as it levels up. And if it did have an increasing radius as it leveled up, it could be an extremely powerful addition to the Poison Necromancer's arsenal. Now, granted, you still wouldn't be able to cast it without a corpse. And so just like Corpse Explosion, you would require you to have a corpse to be able to use it. You would also most likely need to use lower resistance in combination with it, which is definitely going to, be helpful. Another thing here is that the duration of the poison is extremely long. So despite the fact that it says it does 54,709 damage, which seems like an insanely large number, it's over 16.4 seconds, which isn't really as good as you think. If we were to run this on a calculator real quick, we could potentially figure out what our damage per second is. So you're looking at 54,709 divided by a total of 16.4 seconds, which is an average damage of 3,335 damage per second, which isn't really that great. And then you also have to take into account other things when it comes to poison. So you have to take in things like poison length reduction, poison resistance, and so forth and so on, which will cause that 54,709 to be far less than what it's actually stated. Now, granted, if you deck out your character with all the negative resistance equipment that you can, you've got a decent amount of plus to skills, poison skill damage, you're running a pretty decent level of lower resistance, you can usually mitigate a lot of that. But at the same time, it's still not really dishing out a huge amount of damage, especially when you consider that Poison Nova, which is eminently spammable, is far more AoE than Poison Explosion. And just to kind of like give you an example of the difference between these two abilities, like the massive difference, is that with Poison Nova, I can walk into a group of monsters and I can do this. And I can poison every single monster within my distance. And I can kill them all extremely fast with this ability. And with Poison Explosion, I can't even poison that monster over there. All these corpses are out of range. I can corpse explode. I can poison explode every single one of these corpses, and it's not going to help me with that monster that's over there. And now, granted, if I finally do come across a monster that is going to give me that ability to spam corpse explosion, or poison explosion, rather, I mean, it's some shattering corpses left and right. These guys are immune to poison too, which of course doesn't help my demonstration. And on top of this, there's another fatal flaw in Poison Explosion. So the last and final nail in the coffin when it comes to Poison Explosion is that it doesn't work on bosses. 90% of bosses don't have corpses around them. Uber Diablo, Uber Mephisto, Uber Bale, Pandemonium Diablo generally do not have any corpses around them. Diablo doesn't have corpses around him. Bale does not have corpses around him. Now, you do get some corpses around Andariel, but Duriel doesn't have any corpses around him. And basically what it ends up as is Poison Explosion ends up being useless against bosses. Pretty much any boss that doesn't have a corpse around him, you can't do anything with this ability. And it's just too limiting of an ability in general for an ability which doesn't really compete very well with something like Corpse Explosion. 9 times out of 10. Like actually, 99,999 times out of 100,000, Corpse Explosion is going to be the superior choice to use in just about every scenario involving corpses. And then in that one scenario where Poison Explosion might be the superior choice, I probably would still just use Corpse Explosion anyway. And I'm hoping that eventually they do some work on this skill because it definitely is a skill that needs work. I think increasing the radius would have a huge impact on people's willingness to actually use this ability because 54,000 damage over 16.4 seconds is a lot of damage that could potentially help out Poison Dagger and Poison Nova Necromancers. In fact, Poison Dagger Necromancers in general, I think, would get the most benefit out of an ability like this. Because if you're running along with your Poison Dagger Necromancer and then you kill a monster with your dagger, being able to right click and cause an explosion which hits everything nearby would definitely be a useful thing for a Poison Dagger Necro. In fact, there was one point where I actually had decided that maybe the way to fix Poison Dagger and Poison Explosion is to combine them. I know this sounds a little off the wall, but my idea essentially involved taking Poison Dagger and combining it with Poison Explosion and making it so that whenever you killed a monster with Poison Dagger, they would then subsequently explode, making it an automatic process. So, in other words, you just combine these two skills and you end up with a better skill overall. Um, and I think that's not, honestly, that's not a bad way of doing it. Um, there's really not a lot more to go over with Poison Explosion. I've talked enough crap about this skill. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching, and if you do have to put 20 points into Poison Explosion to get that extra damage from Poison Nova, at least you won't feel bad about not using the ability because, well, it sucks. As always, thanks for watching, and keep watching. Alright, so there's Poison Explosion. It's nice to get that one out of the way. Let's go to a different character for Poison Nova, because I do have a character I think that's actually set up for that. The Trangul set one. I think he's actually, like, the highest level Poison Nova that you can get, which is, like, level 54. Yeah. I don't think he can get any higher than that. He's running, like, all P and Bs. I gave him a +7 Necro Torch and a +7 Annihilist Charm, just literally for the only reason was I wanted to test out and see just how high I could get the abilities. I'm not actually sure what the maximum level of Poison Nova is now that I think about it. I think I've ever researched what the maximum possible level is. I mean, granted, you can have a +3 White Wand, of course, and you could have tons of plus to skills from various pieces of equipment. Like, you got your +3 on your helmet, +3 on your amulet. You could have +2 on your armor. He doesn't even have a Poison Nova wand. So he's missing 3 here. He's missing 2 here. He's missing 2 here. He's missing 1 here. He's got 2 Soges, so he's not missing anything there. What is that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he's missing 8. And then, of course, he could have 9, 10 here. So actually, he's not far off from... 54 is probably not far off from maximum. I think he might be pretty close, actually. That's pretty close, probably. I mean, it might be a little over. Maybe like 1 or 2 points over on the Poison Nova. I'm not sure. Alright, let me pull up the sheet for Poison Nova just to make sure I don't miss anything before we get started with this. Has next delay. That's interesting. Poison damage and poison damage a second are rounded down to the nearest point. Alright, I think we're pretty much ready. I'm going to have to talk about the poison bug, which hopefully they eventually fix, but there's really no way around it. What's up, walking dude? How's it going, man? Sorry, I was in the middle of recording earlier, so I didn't see you pop up. These guys. Alright, here we go. 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be going over the last of the Necromancer poison skills, which is Poison Nova. Poison Nova is probably the best skill in this tree, as long as you're not trying to build a physical damage Necromancer. It definitely has, I think, the best damage output for a poison skill. And it does require, of course, the 20 synergies from Poison Dagger and Poison Explosion to get the maximum effect. But once you have it capped out to its highest level, the damage output that it does is pretty decent. Now, it has to be usually augmented by using other pieces of equipment. So, like, normally you're going to need a pretty high amount of negative enemy poison resistance. You're also going to want a pretty nice amount of positive poison skill damage. And then on top of that, you're also going to want to utilize the skill Lower Resistance to bring down the monster's resistance to poison. All of this together actually does add up to a pretty nice damage output when it comes to your Poison Nova. And let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. So if we were to head out here into the Frigid Highlands, and this is on P8, or at least it should be on P8 anyway. Definitely is. And we're going to go ahead and summon our golem. I guess I have a fire golem for some reason on this character. Whatever. We're going to go ahead and cast our lower resistance on the target, and then once we cast our Poison Nova, you'll notice that it does a pretty significant amount of damage to all the monsters nearby. Now, one thing that you got to know about Poison Nova is that it only lasts for 2 seconds. And it doesn't need to be spammed. So a lot of people don't know this about poison skills, is that poison skills don't stack. So especially when it comes to Poison Nova, which has a relatively fast cast speed, there's no reason to be doing this. You don't need to be spamming it like this. Alright, it has a 2-second duration, and when you poison the target, they are poisoned for that 2 seconds, and during those 2 seconds they will continually take damage. You don't need to re-poison them until they are no longer green. Once they turn no longer green, then you definitely want to poison them again. But as long as they are green, they are under the effect of the poison damage, and casting it again only refreshes the duration. It doesn't add additional damage, and it most definitely does not do anything for you except for drain your mana away. Now, granted, if you have another person nearby who is also spamming poison spells, it also doesn't stack with theirs either. So there's also some silliness going on there. So say, for instance, you had 2 Necromancers. One was level 50 Poison Nova, and one was level 51 Poison Nova. The level 51 Poison Nova would override the level 50, and you would get absolutely no damage from the level 51 Poison Nova. Sorry, the 50. The 51 would be the overriding measure. In fact, all poison damage tends to work this way, is that the higher damage poison, it takes over and overrides the lower damage poison, and they don't stack. And this has always been an issue with poison damage, is that you really, like, if you have multiple poison damage characters in a group, only the highest poison damage character is really doing any damage to the monster at any given time. There is also a bug when it comes to poison damage that needs to be discussed. So, anytime a monster hits a monster that is poisoned,
whether it be a skeleton, a golem, an NPC, another player. It doesn't matter what it is. Anytime anything hits a monster that is poisoned, the poison damage is actually interrupted for that frame. And the more times that a monster is hit while he is poisoned, the more times the poison damage is interrupted. Now, you might think to yourself, well, if it's interrupted, it still applies the full poison damage, but it doesn't. Any frame where the poison damage is interrupted is not applied to the target and is not added on to the end of the poison duration either. So it is just simply lost damage. So when you're building a Necromancer, specifically, who is utilizing poison damage, the army actually causes the damage to decrease. The more times that you would attack a monster, like for instance, if you have Raised Skeleton, if you've got Raised Skeleton Mage, if you have Revives, if you have a Golem of any type, your Mercenary, all of these monsters will interfere with the poison damage output, decreasing it for every single time that they attack. And I have tested this conclusively in the past, and I actually have a video up on my channel already that goes over this in detail, as well as has some, like final results. And if you take a look on my live streams, you'll find a video that says poison damage is broken. And in the description of the video, I have the final results of my tests. And I'd like to go over some of those really quickly with you to give you an idea of what it is that we're dealing with. So just really quickly, let me explain the test, okay? So when you're fighting Diablo, let's say you have Diablo on players 8, how long does it take to kill him? That's the question, right? So if you go into a Diablo run on a players 8 run, or if I might have also tested this in players 1 at some times as well. But basically what I did was I ran a Necromancer with a poison dagger. I let the army kill him by himself, okay? So I did not touch Diablo. I let the army do the job by itself to see how long it would take the army to kill Diablo. It took the army 1 minute and 27 seconds to kill Diablo, okay? Then I joined in. I did the run again, and I did this like 2 or 3 times, by the way, so I tested it with multiple attempts to remove any variables. Me and the army was 23 seconds, so I was able to kill Diablo much faster when I joined in with my army. However, the last time I tested with me only. And with me only, no army, I killed Diablo in 19 seconds. The army actually slowed down my damage output and caused me to kill Diablo slower than I otherwise normally would have. In fact, 19 seconds with me only and 23 seconds and me with the army, not only did they interrupt the poison damage, but in general, they slowed down the entire procedure. And I proceeded to test this in multiple ways. I did Druid, I did Rabies Druids, I did Venom, I did all sorts of stuff, and the results of these are all available to you if you want to check them out. But the moral of the story is that the more monsters that you have hitting a target, the less your poison damage is actually effective by. And so the general gist of what I'm trying to tell you here is that building a Summon Necromancer alongside a Poison Necromancer negates the poison damage. The more minions you have, the less your poison damage actually does to the monsters that you're fighting. Now, granted, when you're fighting like a big group of monsters and your army is all spread out, so like when it's all spread out across the entire field and they're not really so much focusing on a specific target, in those situations your poison damage does decently because you don't really have all of the monsters stacked onto a specific target. However, anytime you're fighting a boss with the summon army, the army is actually going to slow down the killing of the monster tremendously. In fact, it gets to the point where it literally will negate your poison damage almost entirely at certain points, depending on how many minions you have. In my tests, I didn't test with a full army of revives. I only tested with the skeletons themselves. And with the skeletons already, they were slowing down the poison damage to the point where I was killing slower. With the addition of the revives on top of that, I would imagine that at that point the poison damage would essentially be doing nothing. To give you a more advanced sort of idea of what's going on, the game is based on 25 frames. So 25 frames is the tick rate, I guess you could call it, or whatever you want to explain it as. And in those 25 frames, 25 actions can happen at any given time. The poison damage is ticking over those 25 frames. It ticks 25 times a second. Anytime a monster attacks during any of those 25 frames, it will consume a frame. The more frames that it consumes, the less the poison damage does. So if you have, for instance, say 25 frames of your poison damage and 13 skeletons have attacked one time each during that frame, 13 of your 25 frames have been consumed, and you're left with, my quick math is always terrible, 12 frames, I think, 12 frames. So you're only left with 12 frames of your damage, which means your poison damage has essentially been cut in half. With Poison and Bone, the Poison and Bone tree, there are definitely some very fun builds, and like I said, it's definitely more damaging and better if you kind of avoid a full army. Now, granted, having like one golem and like a minion is not going to cause that much of an effect on your damage output. It really only starts to really add up when you have like the full army, the golem, the mercenary, like the full revive army on top of that, and then you're in like a player's 8 game and you've got all your friends with you and they're attacking too, and by the time you're done, your poison output damage is basically 0. Now, with this particular ability, there are a lot of items that can help support this ability, and you're really going to want to get your hands on these if you want to build a Poison Nova Necromancer. The Trangle's Wing, the Trangle's Girth Belt, the Trangle's Gloves, this 3-piece combination right here is actually best in slot for pretty much any poison damage Necromancer. You're going to want to be using this 3-piece. And the reason is because number one, and I seem to have hacked this Trangle's with 107% faster cast. That's hilarious. But the reason why you want to use this is because it has the 25% poison skill damage, which is absolutely amazing. The Wing, on the other hand, has the negative 25% enemy poison resistance, which is also amazing. So these two in combination add a huge amount of damage to your Poison Nova. And then, of course, the Trangle's Girth is an obvious choice because it has the Cannot Be Frozen on it, which allows you to use another Soge or another Bolcathos or whatever it is that you're using to get some more plus to skills, because you don't necessarily have to worry about the Cannot Be Frozen anymore. You don't have to wear a Raven Frost, for instance. Another very important item that you can get your hands on is a Death's Web, which I don't believe I have a Death's Web. Oh, no, I do have a Death's Web. Look at that. A Death's Web is negative 50% enemy poison resistance, and this one is absolutely amazing for Poison Nova Necromancers. It is one of your endgame best in slot items for this particular build, and it's also extremely rare and extremely valuable. So bring out your pocketbooks, because you're going to have to pay for it. I think that's pretty much it for this ability. I mean, the only other thing I think we can go over is the fact that it's not an AoE ability, it's actually missiles. So let's go over that really quickly before we end this. So if you look at Poison Nova, you might notice that it resembles something else in the game very similarly. And the thing that it resembles very similarly is actually teeth. Notice that it looks like teeth. Poison Nova is actually teeth. It's just green teeth. They're horribly taken care of teeth. The guy hasn't brushed in ages, okay? He hasn't brushed. There's no mouthwash. He hasn't been to the dentist. All right? They're green and brown, and that's just what they are. Now, why does this matter? Well, because they're individual missiles. That's one of the reasons why, number one, Poison Nova is such a laggy ability. I'm not sure if you guys have ever, like, super lagged up your character before, or your game with Poison Nova back in the day, but it's because every single one of those little dots is a missile. Now, unfortunately, just like teeth, Poison Nova has a next hit delay, and that means that you can't hit a monster more than one time with a individual missile. So like for instance, when you shoot teeth at targets, as it hits a target, the teeth are consumed, and you can't hit one target more than one time with teeth. So no matter how amazing your teeth are, and no matter how well you shotgun the teeth, it's not going to hit a target twice with the same ability. And Poison Nova is the same way because it's missiles, and the missiles have a next hit delay. You can't hit a target more than once. Not that hitting a target more than once would really ever do anything, because as we talked about earlier, the poison damage doesn't stack. And this is, of course, a problem. I also built another Theorycraft character. This was an older one that kind of was based off of the idea of multiple poison explosions. And this was actually where I kind of found out for myself that poison damage doesn't stack. I have a Theorycraft on him as well. It was called the Spreading Plague. And I'm not even sure if he still exists within my files. It's been a long time since I've checked. But basically how the Spreading Plague was set up is he was set up to spam Poison Novas as fast as humanly possible. There he is right there. The Spreading Plague could literally chain gun Poison Novas. And this was where I learned, without a shadow of a doubt, that chain gunning Poison Novas doesn't have any effect. And there are two reasons for this, and we discussed them earlier, but one is the fact that the highest damage poison effect is always going to take precedent over the lower damage poison effect. So the level 15 Poison Nova that's on Andariel's Visage, the level 20 Poison Nova that's on the Breath of the Dying Berserker's Axe, and the level 41 that I have on my character are all different levels, and the 41 overwrites the others. But the general idea of this particular build was that I would go around and I would kill things, and as I killed things, more Poison Novas would come out as I killed them. And as things died, you would see all these crazy Poison Novas come out of the character, because I was getting these amazing, death chains. And you can literally see it. I'll cast like 6 or 7 Poison Novas like at the same time. And this was back before, like I said, I really knew how poison damage worked. And I thought that casting Poison Nova faster would mean more damage. But unfortunately, poison damage just doesn't work that way. And although the character did do exactly what I wanted him to do, the way that poison damage interacts with other poison damage made it not really a viable build. And it's unfortunate, because it was such a fun build to be able to just spam Poison Novas at like an amazing amount. You gotta think that, like, when I'm in the cow level and things start dying and I'm triggering multiple deaths, and every single time with a 50% chance to spawn Novas on the death of a monster, I was having, like, literally, there were some times where I had almost like 100 Poison Novas going off in a span of like 5 seconds. And also, as Samael just pointed out, the next hit delay also is very, very silly. So, like, if I ended up casting 2 Poison Novas at the same time, a monster couldn't be hit by both Poison Novas. So again, the idea behind the build was sound, but the mechanics behind the character, behind how the poison abilities work, just basically prevented it from being successful. If you do want to check out that video, though, that one is up. It's called the Spreading Plague, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just playing around with Poison Nova for 18 minutes. And as always, keep spreading plague. All right, Poison Nova is done. I felt like I did a pretty good job on that one. What do you guys think? Did I miss anything?
I am overburdened.
Wee, 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 wee. I mean, it's fun to get that part of the tree done. I guess next we'll be working on the poison and bone tree. The bone part of the tree. We can go down and take a look at teeth and bone spear, bone spirit, bone armor. We'll probably put bone wall and bone prison together. I don't see any reason why to keep those separate. I already did all the golems, and I already did the raised skeleton. Did I do golem mastery, just out of curiosity? I don't even know if I did. Unfortunately, I do have to get to work here soon. I got night shift. Today is Sunday, right? Yes, today is Sunday. So I think I'm going to end it here. I need to go get dressed and get ready anyway. It's been fun, guys. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my crazy live streams like this. And I hope that the jingle is stuck in your head forever. As always, thanks for watching, and you guys have a good night.